My project was to make a movie today, which is Monday, and it was primarily to be on the subject of pro-life activist Phill Kline, a former Attorney General of Kansas, is now under fire from Planned Parenthood, and they're trying to discredit him so that he can't go ahead as the attorney to prosecute them for something like 100 and something criminal actions, as well as 23 felonies. And this all has to do with Phill Kline subpoenaing that word, the offices of Dr. Tiller. Remember Dr. Tiller, who did so many abortions in the third trimester? Well, he finally got the records and found out that Dr. Tiller, had not documented a lot of these abortions, which was required by law.
Tell you how to pronounce that word properly.
Subpoenaed. And he was required by law to do this. Why? Because Kansas had passed an abortion restriction at the time that you could only do third trimester abortions if there was rape, incest, or danger to the life of the mother. Well, at that time, as I will remember, abortion restrictions passed by the states were extremely hard to enforce, like Governor Brewer in our state had passed several restrictions. And guess what? Planned Parenthood has filed a lawsuit in court to stop the enforcement of some of these restrictions, one of which was notarized consent of parents for underage teens to get an abortion. So it's now been 2 years since that restriction was passed, and Planned Parenthood has still got it tied up in court. And this is the third time that this abortion restriction has been passed. Other times it was overturned. A judge ruled that it was, unconstitutional or something, to require parents to sign for under 16 teens to have an abortion. So anyway, I'm trying to figure out now just what Planned Parenthood is trying to do. And from what we understand, they are trying to say that a pro-life activist lawyer shouldn't be allowed to deal with any abortion issue because of conflict of belief. So that would make, and also that pro-life is for restricted abortion, which legalized abortion is on the books, it's the law. So in essence, pro-life activists would be on the same level as racketeers or gangsters who are not lawful, so that they could not pursue a matter of criminal action against an abortion provider because abortion is legal. Well, so this is kind of like a new low. Pro-life activists on the same level as gangsters, racketeers when it comes to the law. This is what Planned Parenthood is trying to prove.
Well, you know, you've got a problem with gangsters and racketeers.
Oh, yeah, yes, they're being maligned. Pro-life, now, you know, that is
you hang around with me,
criminal
right?
kind of thinking.
You hang around with me, right?
Oh, yes, yes. Well, so this kind of suggests to you that for some people, for suggesting that abortion is wrong is anathema. You know, it's like saying, we need this. And for anyone to, a woman means to a safe, legal abortion. So she doesn't have to go to the back alleys and get illegal abortions when she needs. Well, I agree that if abortion was outlawed today, there would be a lot of women who are used to it now, and they would have a really tough time getting along without it. But it used to be.
Wait a minute.
It used to be that women did get along without it, and they didn't go to back alley abortions near like the abortion advocates tried to say they did.
You were brought up in the country. You never had alleys. I was brought up in the suburbs. We never had alleys. Now another thing I want to comment about.
A back alley for. Let's see. I need an abortion. Where's a back alley so I can find an illegal one?
I'd like to find a back alley. I don't know what I've heard about them. I don't know where they are. Here's another thing you just said.
And I have to contend with guys like him.
Wait a minute. You just
listen to how he's reasoning about this issue.
Wait a minute. You just
he's bringing up some irrelevant.
You just said that there are some women that get used to abortions.
Well, they get used to them being available. So if they have
that's not the way you phrased it. Well, I think if I was a woman and I had one abortion, I would be very careful about getting another one.
Yeah, well, you'd think so. But I know that if a country is used to and there are up to 1 million abortions being performed a year, there's some women are used to this idea. And so living in this world, and that's what I was thinking this morning, living in this world where illogic rules how people can wrap their minds around, like Dr. Tiller, he was doing third trimester abortions, and children in this trimester all the time are born premature. And we go to great lengths some people go to great lengths to save these preemies, who at the same time can be killed, and were killed in Kansas, especially when Dr. Tiller, people started flying there from all over because he was willing to do third trimester abortions, which a lot of those who perform abortions don't like to do, and they have trouble finding people who will do them. So here we've got this case of Planned Parenthood and Dr. Tiller's office and the pro-choice governor, Catherine Sebelius at the time, and some pro-life or some pro-choice Democrats sort of looked the other way after about this restriction being on the books. And supposedly this restriction was to be enforced, just like we try to enforce restrictions on abortion. And you would think in our country that trying to save babies from abortion is just a bad thing. Now, what kind of thinking is that? It's, people were defending Dr. Tiller. They were saying, and now we're finding out that some of the abortions that he performed were actually against Kansas law. And that's what attorney, now, he lost his election as a pro-life attorney general, as did the Republican, to the Democrats. And one of the reasons he lost is because the pro-choice press was proclaiming that he was being investigated. He was being investigated. He was being investigated. And if you've ever seen a newspaper slant all their stories toward pro-choice, that is what a pro-choice newspaper does. It with a bias to make abortion and pro-choice look good, and pro-life, everything that pro-life people look, like fanatic, unreasonable. And here we get on the Democratic side now lately, Beck is the villain incarnate. Well, I watched him. I can't stand to watch him on a regular.
Y'all want some coffee here? I'll give you some
Beck
coffee.
on a regular basis, but these Democrats must go out and listen to him day and night because they know all his faults. And I don't even know him because I can't stand to listen to him that much. I don't pay any attention to people's programs that I don't care for. And that means on the Republican side and the Democratic side. But I'm not trying to prove anything with them. But they seem to think that if they can prove how bad Glenn Beck is, that proves their case. Well, I don't think anything that Glenn Beck does is going to take away, or says is going to take away from the fact that the Democrats are supporting pro-choice. And that's their platform. I'm a registered Democrat, but I'm pro-life. And I very much resent the fact that the party backs pro-choice to the point that pro-life Democrats are denigrated, are not recognized. And, you know, I was reading that the black church movement that was so vital for so many years, and they put their own spin on Christianity. They had a lot of singing, they had a lot of great preaching. People liked to go to black churches because they were different, they were stronger.
And they got a lot of good fried chicken after the service is over. You believe it.
And so, but they're saying that blacks no longer needed this. And I'm saying, yeah, I know what happened. A lot of blacks are grateful for the Democratic Party for what they did for civil rights. And they can't bring themselves to vote Republican. So it's very hard to reconcile God with abortion. And I would say that this has had quite an effect on the black community. According to statistics, there are more blacks who get abortions than any other minority. And I do think that the very strong pro-choice platform, abortion platform in the Democratic Party, has something to do with this. So anyway, when you try to say this, well, you're going to get a big argument from my black friends, you know, they just... But I still think that that's true, that using logic in America when it comes to legalized abortion, it's very hard to make a case for it, to say that it's not killing, to say that it's not a violent solution, that, you know, we got to have it. This is the idea. We need it. And there's this argument that these children will be born into poverty. They'll be born suffering. Well, when did anybody...
They're going to be on the welfare rolls.
Oh, yeah. Well, some people hate that. This is an example of hating starving. I know, but if people are starving and they get pregnant, what are you going to do? Let them starve to death?
Well, that's the reason they get
abortions. And so the thinking is it's better to have them go get abortions if they can't afford their kid. Well, that's just saying anybody who's going to advocate that poor people should get abortions, you know, they're just advocating kill your kids. We'd rather have you kill your kids than end up on welfare starving. Hey, people have starved for centuries at times. Poor people have always starved, and they've always had a hard time. So now all of a sudden we want all the poor people to be doing well. We don't want them to have kids they can't take care of.
Well,
and we don't want these kids to be born and be starving in front of us. Well, we want them dead. Does that make better sense, that we want them killed before they come into being? As I hear this argument all the time. These poor little kids is going to suffer. They're going to be born into poverty. And I say life is very long. And everybody, if they looked ahead and said, is my life going to, you know, I never promised you a rose garden. that's probably what our Creator says to us when we're born. You're going to struggle. So when did we ever say, I don't want to live? If I'm going to suffer, I don't want to live. No, we have this. We have the urge to live, no matter whether we're going to suffer, if we have our choice. But when you abort a child, you don't give that child the choice. You say, you poor little thing, you're going to suffer, so I'm going to take care of you right now.
It's like,
so you won't have to suffer.
Monty Python's, the meaning of life. Every sperm is sacred. Every sperm.
We didn't say every sperm was sacred.
Monty Python.
We say once it gets with the egg is when it should be regarded.
Well, no, they went back farther than that. Every sperm is sacred.
I know, but I said that doesn't make sense.
Well,
Python. So, I'm thinking, and this applies to a lot of different, being fat. I hate being fat, but
well, see, that
there is no way that I can get thin all of a sudden.
We was going to make a comment.
I hate him being a drunk, but there's no way that he's going to sober up right away. That's obvious.
No, wait a minute. I just want to make a comment here.
And it's obvious
I'm not even on camera here. So the reason, it's like, when you remind me of that Sally Struthers, how much weight she put on, and then she would go down to these poor countries, give them food and give them food.
Oh, give the poor food. Oh, that's a good idea. They didn't have it.
And I think it was one of the comedy shows. Did she ever come down there? Oh, see, she came down there, yes. And she said that she was going to give us food, but she ate it all before we got
Well, it's hard to reconcile yourself to being fat. Because of the conditions you live in,
well, didn't
you can only barely hold your own. You can try to keep from gaining any weight and losing a few ounces.
On camera this morning?
Under thighs, yeah.
Yes.
And
I also had to wear a blue shirt so that I couldn't be seen on camera.
But it's hard to be cheerful, when you're fat. I mean, sometimes.
People, they're supposed to be people are jolly. They're jolly as hell.
And it's hard to be cheerful and be, well,
you're an activist, right?
Yeah, activist. But
activists aren't supposed
when I
to
run
laugh.
into illogical people and
they're
talk about
to be scary people,
all these issues, and they use this kind of logic that I think is, well, it's not even logic. It's just. It's hard, to live in a world, like he proclaims himself pro-choice all the time. Sounds just like an idiot.
No, I didn't say it was pro-choice. I said a woman has
pro-choice. That's what it is.
That's what your definition is, not mine.
Well, she's got the option of abortion, and he. And
that's because I never knew where the back alley was. I don't know where back alleys are.
That
Where's the front alley?
Reasonable to him. And I think it's very, very difficult to reason that something is wrong, like abortion, and then take on the whole responsibility as if you believe in life. How are you going to take care of the children? How are you going to get parents to be responsible in other ways and prevent their pregnancies without resorting to a violent solution? How are you going to do that? How are you going to pay for more kids?
I'm going to cut this beard off.
How are you going to stand to see people starving in the street? But they're alive. They're alive. They're not dead. To me, the worst possible thing you can do to a child is kill it before it ever even gets going.
There's a lot worse things you can do to a kid than kill it.
Oh, baloney. If the kid survives, it can come back and live. You can live through some of the worst experiences, but if you do, you're still alive. And nobody has a right to say, we need to kill that kid before it suffers. Now, to me, that's totally illogical. It just doesn't even make... And, living in the world with illogic is... And even my own imperfect self...
Did you ever read the book Oliver Twist?
Is difficult.
Did you ever see the movie Oliver?
Yes, I did.
So what you're trying to tell me the worst thing you can do to a kid is kill it? Oh boy, you gotta read that book again.
how do you know? Well, Oliver got away from him. Dickens was raised in poverty, but he got past that. A lot of kids are born into something that's not good. They have a very difficult home life. I had a very difficult home life with an alcoholic dad, and a lot of bad things happened, but I made it through. And I certainly wouldn't want to give up my life for that.
Your mother was the pinnacle of...
No, she reacted. So the thing of it is life is imperfect, but as long as we're breathing at the end of the day, and we always have hopes that we can change. When we get a little more power as an adult, we can make different choices than our parents did, and we can work our way out of some of these really bad situations.
I agree with you.
So anyway, we're going to be looking to see how attorney Phill Kline does in Kansas in his battle against Planned Parenthood.
I'm voting for you. I'm
trying to keep him from being the attorney that takes them to court for their violations.
And I'm willing I'm willing to pay the bus ride up so that you can go to Nebraska. I'll give you some spending money.
Oh yeah, sure. He's being illogical as usual.
I'd like you to get out of town for a while.
Thank you. And so we'll be watching what Phill Kline does in Kansas with Planned Parenthood. So keep your...
And vote for her.
And you probably won't even find any news of this in a pro-choice press. They haven't even reported it yet.
Activist
because they don't like to report anything about if Planned Parenthood's in trouble.
Activist of the month.
And pro-life activists are...
That's right.
Are winning some kind of battle. They don't like to report that.